Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar video. So we've got some pretty interesting news here. I was actually contacted about this a couple of days before, August 9th, the announcement. There's a bit of an embargo going on. So I'm actually recording this the day before the announcement. But anyway, I'll be releasing this when the embargo ends on August 9th. And this is obviously about a brand new Avatar mobile game that's going to be coming out in 2024. This is a separate game to Avatar Generations, our current Avatar mobile game, so just keep that in mind. I will straight away say at the start here, we don't have a ton of information here. There's like a paragraph or two of this press release that we have. There's an image, but there's really nothing to the image. I'll actually just show you that sort of like straight away. As you can see here, it is stock imagery of Toph, Katara, Aang, Mako, and Korra. So cool that we get Avatar and Korra, but of course the two Korra images, Korra and Mako, those are particularly old images from 2011 or something like that, like pre-Korra even coming out. So there's nothing really new there. And then the Aang, Katara, and Toph images, of course, are some of the newer Avatar Studios images, but we have seen them used before. They are just kind of standard stock imagery that have become somewhat common over the last couple of years. The background is interesting. I can't immediately place where it is, but it's obviously some sort of Republic City concept art. Perhaps, maybe it's new and related to what the game is actually about. But if that is the case, it's interesting that they kind of hide most of it behind well-known stock imagery. The idea here seems to just be that here is a visual to go along with the game, where the main takeaway from it probably is just that it's Avatar and Korra. They are doing kind of both side by side. But that's really all there is to say there. So let's just jump into the press release. So new Avatar Last Airbender mobile game in development by Tilting Point, AN Games, and Paramount Consumer Products. So August 9th, of course, embargo ends. Tilting Point, one of the leading global publishers of free-to-play games, and real-time strategy game developer AN Games, under license from Paramount Consumer Products, are developing a multiplayer strategy mobile game focused on Nickelodeon's Avatar The Last Airbender franchise. Based on the renowned animated series Avatar The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra, the strategic mobile game will have players explore the Avatar world, interact with beloved characters, and work together with other players to defeat a barbarian death cult that worships an evil spirit set on dominating the world. Launching in 2024, the game's official title and additional details will be announced in the coming months. In this multiplayer strategy mobile game, players will take on the role of a leader tasked with building an army and community to restore balance in the Avatar world. Strategy is key, as players will need to build cities, manage resources, construct and upgrade buildings, explore the world, and engage in tactical combat to become victorious. With a focus on city building, cooperative gameplay, and exploration, players will work together to expand territories, manage resources, and restore harmony to the Avatar world. So we get a quote here from Kevin Segala, CEO and founder of Tilting Point. My kids grew up watching Avatar The Last Airbender, and I was there for every episode. We loved it so much that when they got older, the whole family got our first tattoos, each of us with one of the 4 element symbols that best represented our personalities. Nickelodeon and Paramount Consumer Products created an amazing show, and between Tilting Point and the mobile strategy experts at AN Games, we are super excited to be making a game that will be just as amazing. And then we just end with some stuff about Tilting Point have a world-class portfolio of games based on a variety of different IPs, including SpongeBob Krusty Cook-Off and the upcoming SpongeBob Adventures in a Jam. Beyond that, as expected from most press releases, you just get some explanation if you don't know what Tilting Point is, AN Games is, what Avatar is, Nickelodeon or Paramount is. But we know what we're talking about here. So what is the takeaway from this? Straight away, I'm kind of like, cool. I think it is good that Avatar is getting another mobile game, especially in a kind of different genre completely than Avatar Generations. I definitely think there's room for multiple to see different styles of gameplay made by different developers. That's completely fine. Obviously, some people will complain and wish that when are we getting our AAA Avatar game? We just have to, I guess, wait a little bit, and so we're getting kind of more mobile games initially, and I think that is fine. That's probably the correct path to take. These games do tend to be quite popular, so this helps to, you know, get Avatar out there more, and then we can build up to more of the stuff that I think fans, you know, deep down really, really want, the big high-profile games. As for some of the details on this one, obviously what we learn here is they're highlighting Avatar and Korra. We saw that in the image, of course. Strategic mobile game. Beloved characters. This is the most interesting part of it for sure. That they give you a little bit of a plot element, plot hook for what the game's story is actually going to be about. So you will have to defeat a barbarian death cult that worships an evil spirit set on dominating the world. So straight away, barbarian death cult. Very interesting. We've heard of barbarians before, like it's mentioned in Korra once or twice. Barbarians were what, like, Unalaq hired to, like, attack basically his home in the whole kind of backstory with him and his brother. You know, that's where they were involved before. But a cult, I don't think we really have any other examples of, like, cults necessarily. Maybe some of the Legends RPG information has a cult mentioned once or twice. But, like, specifically like a death cult, we don't really have. Maybe you can, to a certain degree, frame the Red Lotus as being kind of cult-like with their worship to a certain degree of Vatu, which I would guess suggests that this is different than just, like, they want to support the Dark Spirit Vatu. So that would suggest that if this spirit is a kind of real thing and not just a background for the cult, that could be a really cool way to introduce a particularly notable, cool design, new spirit, some sort of crazy dark spirit along the lines of Ko, Glowworm, stuff like that. So I think that is actually a very cool setup of, like, stuff that we haven't really got explored too much. The one question I would have, though, they don't really confirm it here, is this a Korra era story or an Avatar era story? And then how does the whole both series are going to be involved here? Because again, if we open up the image now, like I said, the images are probably not really representative of what the game looks like, because we know they're just you know, stock imagery basically, promo shots that we've seen many times before. But it sort of suggests that, like, you'll have sort of 12-year-old Aang interacting with, like, 17-year-old Korra. And how is that exactly going to work if this story is, like, meant to be canon necessarily? Like, will it just be the game conceit of like, it's set in one era or the other, but for gameplay and variety purposes you can have other units, but the game never really acknowledges sort of the out of era stuff and just has a story related to its, like, original characters? And that will be an interesting thing to follow, because I think if it does get confirmed that the game story is meant to be official and fully canon, like working with Avatar Studios, then people will want to know that, like, some thought has been put into making this work together. In the actual email I was sent about this, not the press release, it does say, kind of worded slightly differently, full of beloved and recognizable characters from both Avatar and Korra, and work together to defeat the barbarian death cult dominating the world. I think that's the work together part, I think, is more meant to be about the fact that it's a multiplayer mobile strategy game. But they are acknowledging that there will be characters from Avatar and Korra involved in this, and I'm interested to see how exactly that works. It doesn't go into the details of how that works from a kind of cross-generational kind of point of view, especially because they've seemed to have set a specific story, like, unlike, say, Avatar Generations, where they can just set a story in a specific era and have it work that way, and then just have random battles be where, like, you completely mix and match. We don't really know how exactly it's going to work here. In terms of other stuff, they obviously say the launching in 2024, the game's official title and additional details will be revealed in the coming months. Obviously, that is always a frustrating thing to see. Like, this is your initial announcement of the game, and fundamentally, there is not really anything of particular substance to get into in this initial announcement, because it's just the game doesn't even have a title right now, let alone an image that shows you anything about this game. So it's a bit of a weird one in terms of, like, okay, it's cool that we now know it exists, but you would generate a lot more hype by actually showing people what this is and getting people more interested in especially from an Avatar, hardcore Avatar fan perspective. Like, you know, if imagine you had any imagery associated with this to really hype people up of like there will be a new story associated with this game potentially, show off what the characters are meant to look like, what the gameplay style necessarily is meant to be. Because obviously, if you go through it here, multiplayer strategy mobile game, you are a leader. So I guess the idea is you playing the game is sort of organizing your kind of army and community. So that's interesting. So you're building like a city, resources, buildings, you're exploring the world. I wonder how much of the world we're going to explore here. Tactical combat, but what exactly way is that going to work? Is it more of the, you know, kind of civilization, you know, Age of Empire style stuff where you do have like a pretty large amount of kind of armies kind of clashing together, or is there more to it? Is it maybe going to be more of a kind of basic Fire Emblem style thing, but maybe a grid-based type thing? The fact that like the characters seem to be involved here might suggest that, you know, like that's probably the best way to do it if there is going to be some sort of a kind of gacha based system in the game potentially. City building, cooperative gameplay, exploration, expand territories, manage resources. You know, they say a few things, but obviously like that could mean a pretty wide variety of types of games depending on what type of strategy game they're going for here. So that'd probably be the main thing here, is just like I said earlier, I'm excited that there's another game coming, because that means like that there's a lot of kind of investment to a certain degree going into Avatar. The hype is building as we get closer to the Avatar Studios project. I'm just never going to be particularly excited about these type of like early announcements where it kind of feels like, can you not just wait a month and then like announce it where it actually has some more substance to it? Because for some people, they'll just be like, oh, and then they won't think about this, and then they'll just kind of like ignore it maybe when other news comes out about it. Whereas this would be maybe have a little bit more interest to it if it launched and there was like a screenshot or two. There was a little video, if it had like a title associated with it to maybe just give us a better sense for what's actually going on here. I understand it is an early announcement. The whole idea is this is just, remember this thing exists and there will be news in the coming months. But again, this is the problem where like you haven't exactly said specifically when the next news is coming about this. And this is a thing that does frustrate fans of like franchises when you say stuff like this. Coming months, does that mean the next update is next month? Does it mean in 2 months? Because if it means in 3 months, we're suddenly talking about like a quarter of a year, and that's not exactly soon, really. And then if it's 4 months, you know, it's a third of a year, and then we're getting closer to half a year, and it's just getting to the point where it's like, you know, why did you do this early announcement when you didn't really have much to show off? Like, that's my point. Like, I've been covering Avatar news on this channel for like 12 years or something like that. These type of announcements with such little detail always frustrate fans, because it's like it could have been so much more. So much excitement could have been generated if you just showed off what it is. And I think any fan of like video games, when you've watched those kind of conferences where they show the videos, Nintendo Directs and stuff like that, it's always better when you have a trailer or something like that that shows a bit of your gameplay and highlights this is what you'll be playing, rather than just like vagueness about like, ooh, we're kind of going for this sort of idea. And that's just the kind of frustration of like, there's just, for a lot of people, they'll just be like, well, I guess I'll wait until we actually have proper information to judge, because you can't tell what type of game it is exactly from the description. And then the image, of course, doesn't really tell you anything. I think people will give it credit for including Korra. That's always a good thing to see. Not everyone does that these days. Avatar: The Last Airbender does tend to be the focus over Korra. So it's cool that Korra was included here. But the fact that it's like very old promo images used will kind of be a little bit of a mark against what's going on here. So I don't know. I appreciate that there's at least this mention here of like, that's kind of an interesting story setup here. Spirits, cult, barbarians, like that's relatively interesting stuff when it comes to Avatar. I just wish there was a little bit more. So obviously I will continue to cover this when we do get new updates on this game. I cover all the Avatar news, so I will focus on this when we do get more significant news. But yeah, that's kind of been the early announcement post embargo. I guess I'll see in the comments, like, you know, around the time when the embargo actually goes down, if there's any other information that like does go out there, or if there is anything extra to say. But based on what I have right now, they are my thoughts on the new announcement of the Avatar mobile game from Tilting Point and AN Games. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are, but that's been what I have to say. That's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.